Welcome everybody to the phone training video. In this video, we're going to talk about kind of the basics of how to set appointments. We're going to start off with kind of the mindset you need to go into the phone dialing part of it. We'll talk about the contact metrics, kind of how to set your expectations correctly for the results that you're getting. Then we're going to go over the actual phone script, and I'm going to break that down into a couple different parts so that we can understand why we're saying what we're saying. And then we'll finish it up with how to handle different objections that we're getting. So the first thing that I want to talk about is kind of the mindset. And one of the biggest things, as you heard in the last video, one of our four cornerstones is massive action, constant correction. And the phone is really where the massive action comes in. On a good week, a top producer might do 15, 20, maybe 25 appointments in a single week. And while that's a lot of appointments, when we're talking about massive action, where it really starts is on the phone. If you put in massive action on the phone, that leads into massive appointments, and that leads into massive AP that you sold, which leads to massive income and so forth. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about starting off. So we want to make sure that you understand whether you have experience on the phone or you're brand new, it's all going to come down to putting in a lot of dials. And the more dials you put in, regardless of your skill level, the better you're going to get. So you talk to any top producer and you ask them, how many dials did you do when you started? They're going to tell you 250, 300 in most cases. Now, some people came in with some prior experience, but the majority of our top people came in brand new. And so we all started putting in, 250, 300, 400, and even 500 in some cases or more, dials per week. But what you'll find is that as we moved forward, and as we got better, the number of dials we had to make to schedule the same amount of appointments was going down over time. And then now you talk to some top producers and you'll find that their number of dials per week are very low, but they're still getting their 10, 15, 20 appointments per week, right? And that's what we really want to base how many dials we're making on is how many appointments are we getting. And so to kind of start off with that, I wanted to talk about the metrics of our lead system, okay? And this is very conservative, okay? You'll see these numbers presented, and maybe in some conference calls or at conference, and you might even see some of them a little bit better than these numbers. I wanted to be on the low side so that, we make sure that you're hitting the right numbers. And so we start off with A leads and go all the way down. Now, the majority of brand new agents are going to be starting right around this area here, and then they'll dip into the 4A and the 5A as well. And the reason this is important is especially someone who starts off on 50-cent leads and they talk to, let's say, 7 people, and all 7 people, they're not interested, they already took care of it, whatever objection you're getting, and you don't get any appointments set. Well, in most cases, in other areas, you might think, man, I talked to 7 people. That should be an appointment, right? I should have some better results. But when you look at the statistics, you should be setting 1 appointment for every 10 to 15 contacts when you're dialing 50-cent leads. And that's important because we want to make sure that your expectations are set correctly. If you think that after 7 dials, you're supposed to already have an appointment, you're going to be down on yourself, and that's going to lead into worse results. And then you may not even be hitting these standards. So we want to make sure you go into these with the right expectations. 1A is going to be 1 appointment for every 9 to 10 contacts. 2A, roughly the same thing. 3A, it jumps to 7 to 8. 4A, 5 to 6. 5A, 4 to 5. And then when you get to A leads, you're going to have 1 to 2 appointments for every 3 contacts. And obviously, that's why these ones are $27 a lead, right? They're very, very good, but you have to be able to handle them correctly, and that's why we go through this training process. You start low and you work your way up as your income grows and as your confidence grows. So when we talk about mindset, it's so important that you keep your attitude positive, because doing 250, 300 dials is not easy if you don't have the right mindset going into it. You got to have this just strong work ethic and push through the negative responses that you get. You might get hung up on every now and then. You might get someone that yells because they're having a bad day. That stuff does happen, and you need to be ready for it. But what you want to understand is that our product matters, and there's people out there that need and want what we have to offer. And I'm okay getting yelled at every now and then, or getting hung up on every now and then, to find that one person who was really looking for what we had to offer but didn't know where to go, and we were able to help them out. So that's why we want to keep our expectations in the right area, stay positive, and just outwork everybody. That really is why the top people are at the top, is they put in more dials than everybody else. And by doing that, they end up getting better and becoming an expert in what they're doing. So let's go ahead and jump into the phone script. And I'm going to go through each of these sections kind of independently, because they're very different in kind of what our goals are for each section. This first paragraph right here is really just to get in, let them know why we're calling, get out the full paragraph before they have a chance to say anything, and then handle the objection from there. And so I'm going to read through it real quick, and then we'll break it down. So hello, is this Susan? Hi, Susan. My name's Johnny Cox, and I'm with the Mortgage Protection Office, and I'm calling about your mortgage with Frost Bank. Now, some time ago, and it may have been quite a while, you or your husband filled out a form requesting some information about our mortgage protection program, but our records show that we were unable to reach you. Now, you do still qualify for our coverage, and I was just calling to see if you had already taken care of that or if you still needed the protection. And so you can see that was pretty much straight through. There weren't really any pauses. The few pauses that I had, what I normally do is I start the next sentence, take a pause, and then continue. So if you'll remember, I said, now you do still qualify for our coverage. The now that I added there just basically tells them that I'm not done talking, and most people won't blatantly interrupt in that situation. And you don't have to do that. You can just read through. But the main thing is you don't want to add a bunch of small pauses anywhere in here, because it'll give them a chance to kind of cut you off, and they don't know why you're calling yet. And they might be thinking you're a telemarketer at first and hang up on you if you give them a chance to stop you. Now this, let's see, this second sentence here says some time ago, and it may have been quite a while. The reason that we say that is because some of these, especially the 50-cent leads, could be a little bit old. Okay, they could be 6 months, a year, maybe even 2 years old in some rare cases. And that's okay, because the reason that they're still there is because they haven't bought. And someone sent in that letter. Maybe it wasn't the right situation at that time, but they may have had a family event, some kind of life event that all of a sudden now they really need the coverage. So that's all we're looking for, is those people. But we would get people that would say, well, man, I sent that in a year ago. And so all we do by adding this line is we just cut that out. We don't give them a chance to say, oh, I sent that in a while ago, because you already told them that. So, some time ago, and it may have been quite a while, you filled out a form requesting some information about our mortgage protection program, but our records show that we were unable to reach you. Now, you do still qualify for our coverage. Now that you do still qualify, we let them know that, we were never able to reach them. They still qualify. So now they're thinking, okay, well, I qualify for it. Do I still need it? And then you ask them, I was just calling to see if you had already taken care of that or if you still needed the protection. What we're doing there is we're giving them an either or. Okay, you don't want to ask, do you still need it? Because then everybody's going to say no. And then it's very difficult to recover from that, because they could just hang up on you, or, oh, I'm not interested, and goodbye. But by saying, just calling to see if you already taken care of that or if you still needed it. Okay, well, what that's probably going to do is send most people to, oh yeah, I already took care of it. Okay, and why that's important is that it leads them into where the script is going, right? So if they say they've already taken care of it, we're going to jump to this section here. Okay, and if they say they still need it, we're going to jump to this section down here, sorry. Okay, and then if they say that they're just not interested anymore, we're going to jump to this section. So it really only gives them three options. And why that's important is really more for you, because you don't have to worry about 10 different objections to handle. You only need to worry about two, really, because one of them is they're interested, and you go into getting the information. So if they say they've already taken care of it, we're going to jump to this section here. Now, if you don't mind me asking, did you get the new kind or the old kind? Here's the thing. There's no such thing, like they're not labeled new kind or old kind. What we really want them to say is they're not sure. What's the difference? Um, Return of premium is newer. So again, we're not lying here. Return of premium is newer, and most companies don't offer it, and that's why we use this. So, did you get the new kind or the old kind? And they're going to say, well, I'm not really sure what's the difference. Oh, well, with the new kind, if you outlive the term, then you get all your money back. With the old kind, your coverage just ends and you don't get anything back. Which one do you have? And if they say they have the new kind, or if they say they have the old kind, right, you just go there. So most people are going to say they have the old kind, because return of premium is not as common. And we'll talk about what that is later on. But basically, okay, well, like I said, with the new kind, you get all of your money back at the end of the term if you do not pass away. So it's kind of like a savings account with life insurance protection included. And because I work with 30 different insurance companies, I can also probably save you some money on the policy you already have. Is that something you'd be interested in? So here's the deal. We told them that we can get them a better policy. We told them that we could also save them money on what they already have. If they're not interested in either of those things, then they're not really a client, right? We don't want to bug them. We're not trying to convince people to buy our product. We're trying to find people that are already interested. And so that's why we add this line in there. Is that something you'd be interested in? If they say no, then you say, great, have a great day. If you change your mind, here, this is my cell number, give me a call. But this way it kind of gives you a chance to check for interest, which is what we're trying to do. Now, if they say they do have the new kind, they have the return of premium, you say, great, that is really good protection. Now, because I work with all the major insurance companies in Texas, I can usually save customers 15 to 20% on the premiums. Is that something that you'd be interested in? And again, told them that I could save them money on their policy. If they're not interested in that, then again, we don't really have anything to do there. So, you get off the phone and on to the next call. Now, if we go back up here and we ask them if they've already taken care of it or still need it, and they say, oh, I'm not interested anymore, we want to find out why. Because some people might think they can't get approved. Some people might think that they have a new mortgage company, and so this doesn't apply to them anymore. We want to find out why. So we just asked them, if you don't mind me asking, did you already pay off your mortgage, or was there another reason you don't need the protection anymore? Again, we're giving them an either or. Okay, and they can either tell us they paid it off, or they can tell us another reason that they don't need it. Okay, and so if they tell you something like, well, I don't think I can get approved, okay, then you just say something like, well, hey, I work with 40 different companies. We can get just about anybody approved. So, let me go ahead and ask you some questions, and I can, give you a better idea, and then move into this part. A lot of people say they already paid off their mortgage. And so if that's the case, okay, well, we don't just do mortgage protection. We offer all different types of life insurance and retirement protection. Is that something that you'd be interested in? Again, they already told you they don't need mortgage protection because they sold their mortgage or they paid off their mortgage. And so we can't really go in with the mortgage protection anymore, but we can go into life insurance and retirement protection. And if they're not interested in either of those things, then we want to move on. So the big thing to remember in this section, the first section, you want to go slow and low. Okay, so be very mindful of what you sound like. You want to not pause just during this section. After this section, it's very conversational, so you don't need to worry so much about not pausing and things like that. But during this section, it's really important. Then from here, it's leading them down this road of, which objection they're going to give you. And then try and always lead it back to trying to get their information and set an appointment. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and go into collecting their information. And this is pretty simple. You're just going to read through this. So you can say, great, let me verify a couple things real quick. Your mortgage balance is approximately blank amount. This will be on the lead sheet. Is that a 15, 20, or 30-year term? How much is the monthly payment? And have you used any tobacco or nicotine products in the last year? Now, on the lead sheet, excuse me, there's two different kinds. One of them will have the age, but not the date of birth, and we need to confirm the date of birth. So you'll say, I have here that you're 45 years old. What's your actual date of birth? If the date of birth is already known, you just want to confirm it. And your date of birth is blank, is that correct? Now, I just have a couple quick health questions, like how tall are you and your weight roughly? And have you had any major medical issues in the past 10 years, like cancer, stroke, heart attack, diabetes, anything like that? If they do, find out when it was diagnosed, when their last treatment was, any other additional info that you think is needed. Are you receiving any type of disability payment through Social Security or military? Are you taking or have been prescribed any medications at this time or any major ones in the past 7 years? And what are those for? Now, for this part, we don't necessarily need to know what medications they're taking. We need to know what they're for. Okay, so find out, is it high blood pressure, is it diabetes, and then go from there. Now, will this policy just be on you, or is there anyone else in the house you would like a quote for? If they say yes, obviously get more information. You only will say this line if it only has one person on the lead sheet. If it's already got a spouse on there, then go ahead and ask these same questions for the spouse. Okay, Susan, now I am licensed in the state of Texas, which allows me to compete the top insurance companies in the state against each other to find you the lowest rates. So instead of you kind of shopping around and getting a bunch of different quotes from each company, I kind of do that for you. And I usually put together about 10 to 15 different quotes for my clients, and I'll pick out the top 2 to 3 to present to you. Now, that presentation takes only about 20 minutes. I just go over the product and what it covers, and then the different coverage amounts that you qualify for. So what time do you and your husband usually get home from work? They'll tell you 5 o'clock. Great. Well, I actually have a 5:30 and a 6:30 on Monday. Which one of those works best for you? Now, all of this you're just reading through. The major thing is at the very end, you want to make sure you ask them when they get home from work and get that time, and then go into your schedule and pick out the next day and the next 2 free times that you have available that would work with their schedule. Okay, so if they get off work at 5, and you have a 5:30 on Monday, and let's say you're doing Sunday evening calls, right? Monday would be the next day, and then you would want to pick your 5:30, or would 7 o'clock be better? Always pick 2 times. Do not ever give them just one time. If you give them just one time, it's an easy way for them to just say no. And that's, again, harder to overcome. But if you say this or this, they then have to say, well, actually, neither of those times work, which then is implying that you go ahead and pick 2 new times. Okay, so make sure you always give 2 times. If those don't work, then move on and pick 2 more times, and just kind of keep going through your schedule until you find something that works for them. Now, if you do me a favor real quick and grab a pen and paper, just jot down my name, which is Johnny, and our appointment is for Monday at 5:30. And are you sure this time definitely works for you and your husband? Okay, perfect. And is the correct address this? Okay, and will my GPS take me right to you? Awesome. And is your house number on the house or on the mailbox? Very good. Now, I do make all my appointments, but if you'll give me about 30 minutes on either side, just in case I get done early or in case I hit traffic, I'd appreciate it. And I look forward to meeting you on Monday at 5:30. Have a great day. So that's the whole script. Okay, it's very simple, very basic, very direct. And again, our goal is just to find interest. That's it. And if they're interested, that's who we're looking for. We're going to go ahead and schedule an appointment with them. If they're not interested, then we're going to go ahead and move on, to the next person. Very important you have the right mindset and the right tone to your voice. Again, we want to assume that they're interested. They do need this product, okay? And so we are still just looking, though, for people that are interested. Now, we're going to go ahead and jump to the objections. Some of these objections you could get at any point, okay? And that's why they're just on a separate sheet. I'd recommend having your lead or your script in front of you, and then your objection sheet right next to you. And again, these are kind of made to where they can almost be asked anywhere. Some of them are assuming that you're past a certain point just because it's where it would make sense. but we're going to run through these real quick. Towards the beginning, when you tell them what you're calling about, they may not remember, okay? And again, because it may have been a while ago. So if they ask you, what are you calling about, or they don't remember filling it out, you just let them know. Now, it was a letter that you filled out and sent to us requesting information about mortgage protection. Basically, if you were to pass away, it would help pay off the mortgage. Do you remember filling that out now? And again, we're just trying to make sure they remember, and that way we can move on. They might ask you, can you just send me something? This is usually once you're trying to set the appointment. Okay, you know, I wish I could, but because we don't do blood work or any health tests, the insurance company does require that I meet with you in person to make sure you match the application. But the presentation only takes about 20 minutes. So what time do you and your wife usually get home? When they ask, how much is it? You know, it really depends on your health, age, and goals, but it could be as low as $25 a month or as high as $300 or more, just depending on what you want. But I am licensed in the state of Texas, which allows me to compete all the top insurance companies in the state against each other to get you the best rate. So instead of you shopping around getting with all the different companies, I do that for you. And I usually put together about 10 to 15 different quotes for my clients, and I'll pick out the top 2 to 3 to present to you. That presentation only takes about 20 minutes. I just go over the product and what it covers, and then the different coverage amounts that you qualify for. So what time do you and your husband get home from work? If they ask you, can you meet me at my office or Starbucks? We don't typically do that because then they're not really focused. If a customer walks in or whatever, and they're just not really in a buying setting. So when they say that, you know, unfortunately, because it is mortgage protection, the insurance company does require me to do it at your house just to verify the mortgage and house is real. But my presentation only takes about 20 minutes. So again, what time do you get home from work? When they need to talk to their spouse, you know, that's understandable, but my schedule does fill up very quickly. So what I would like to do is go ahead and set a time that you think y'all will be available. So that way I can get you into my schedule for sure. But if after you talk to her, she's not available, then you can just call me and we can switch it to a different time. So do you think, you know, 5:30 or 7 would be better? And then if they tell you that they're busy, that, hey, can you call me later? You know, I only have about 15 seconds worth of questions. You have 15 seconds? And we're, again, just trying to get in, get those questions asked, set the appointment, you know, and go from there. And that usually doesn't take very long. And so they'll usually go ahead and let you, you know, move forward with that. So those are the majority of the objections you're going to get. You're going to get more objections than that. And in that case, you just want to call your mentor and check with them on how to handle it. But it's super important that you follow these word for word. You have this out in front of you. If you're looking at your script and all of a sudden they ask you an objection and you need some time to find it, what you want to do is say, you know, that's a really good question. And that gives you a little bit of time to switch pages, right, and go back over here. But you also want to know where you left off on the script. So, you know, whether you put your finger down or make a mark or something, but you want to know where you left off. So that way, once you handle the objection, you can try and get back to, you know, the actual script. So this is again, the basics. You know, a lot of what you're going to learn with this script is going to be done as you're making calls. Make sure your very first phone time that you are calling your mentor after every 3 contacts. It's so important that you do this because you're going to make mistakes, and that's just a part of learning. And if you make mistakes though and you don't learn from them and you keep doing the mistakes, that's the problem. Okay, and you're not going to necessarily know it's a mistake. That's why we're training. So make sure you're checking in with your mentor, letting them know how those calls went and what happened, and that way we can kind of, you know, guide you the best we can. So anyway, hope you learned a lot on the phone script. And again, just study the script. You know, you don't necessarily need to memorize it, but you need to get very good at it, very comfortable with it. And eventually, as you do it over and over again, you will memorize it. So let your mentor know if you have any other questions, and good luck on the rest of the videos.